Thank you for joining us for the latest business support program webinar. Today, looking at psychological safety, particularly in high risk environments. And again, we're joined by the team from PA Consulting to support us through today's webinar. So if I can have the next slide, please, Cameron. So as always, you'll hear from myself first of all. I will give a quick whiz through what we do as a chamber, our role, a little bit on the Sizewell project, just to make sure, as always, everyone is as fully up to speed as possible with what is happening. As you'll see in the chat, we will always share the slides and the recording of today's webinar, hopefully with the first little error at the start of this webinar edited out. We will share that, and that will be featured on our website and also shared to everyone who has signed up for today's webinar. And please ensure your questions are put onto the Q&A function. Although what we will do through today's presentation, especially when Ed is talking, if there are any questions that you have that are particularly prevalent to something that Ed is presenting on, any comments or questions you have on a particular slide, please do put them on the Q&A, and actually we will look to do them live at that exact moment on some of the questions rather than wait everything till the end. Once I've finished going through our slides, I'll then hand over to Ed, who will touch on psychological safety, like I say, with the aim to do the whole review and the Q&A at the end, and then answer any other questions and thoughts that you may have. Next slide, please, Cameron. So for those I've not met before, my name is Ashley Shorey-Mills. I am Supply Chain Engagement Director here at the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce. Suffolk Chamber, as we know, has been working on the Sizewell project for a number of years, and we host these to really help you as a local business understand how you can make the most of the opportunity that is Sizewell C. Next slide, please. And this is ultimately what we are all here to try and help facilitate and build. Sizewell C, for those of you who are used to the Suffolk coastline, is on the right hand side of this image, twin reactor. Sizewell B in the middle is very famous, very well known, certainly locally, but also internationally because of its dome, and often used on a lot of PR for nuclear because it is a bit of a benchmark. It is a bit of a pillar of the nuclear sector with regards to its safety record and its performance record across the world. But the aim, sometime in the mid-2030s, is to have Sizewell C, both units fully operational, and between B and C, giving about 10% of the UK's electricity demand from a very small pocket of land on the Suffolk coastline. Next slide, please. What's important is we are replicating what is happening down at Hinkley with Hinkley Point C at the moment. So Hinkley Point C, exactly the same as Sizewell C, twin reactor, circa 3.2 gigawatts, to ensure that learnings can be taken from Hinkley, that replication, that fleet effect, which will keep costs down, allow lots of understanding of how to continue to build more and more nuclear on scale. And the example of Hinkley and Sizewell is the first ever in the UK where we have literally copied an exact same design across all of our nuclear fleet. The only small changes will be to do with the tide pattern, so the infall and outfall for the water and the grid connection. Other than that, everything else will be a complete replica of what is happening down in Somerset right now. Next slide, please. So who are we? So the Suffolk Chamber Supply Chain Engagement Team, we've been working with Sizewell since around 2011, particularly over the last 5 years on our work on supply chain, most notably. We are part of the British Chambers of Commerce as a wider network, and we're the 6th largest chamber in the UK. And there are 7 of us dedicated to working on the Sizewell project, and we'll talk about some of our work in a second. But now we have nearly 3,000 businesses on our portal that we run on behalf of the local and regional engagement, employing around 1.25 million people to really help bring that benefit home. Next slide, please. And what Sizewell's attempting to do, it's got its core 5 strategic aims that you can see on here. And as mentioned earlier, the amount of electricity that is going to be generated, the low carbon power that's going to be generated from Sizewell, is circa 6 million homes. And when you stop and consider for a moment that then you add Sizewell B onto that, then you add, if you look in our part of the world when it comes to low carbon technology, the likes of offshore wind, actually this part of the country is strategically critical for the UK's energy transition and also energy security, which of course currently is becoming a more and more prevalent matter. But Sizewell has made lots and lots of commitments. Yes, they need to get it built on time, on budget, and with zero harm, but at the same time do it in a way that really turns the dial on large scale projects. Next slide, please. And they do, one of the key ways in which they do this is through their sustainability goals, their ESG aims, and the social value focus that this project has at its core. These are the 5 goals outside of the technical ability that businesses have to really try and add that value. And many of you will be aware, because we show this slide a lot, we fit firmly into goal 1, which is all around getting that 70% UK content out of this project, which is an increase in UK content compared to Hinckley, but by prioritising local, then regional, and then national spend. So really looking at where that benefit can be best felt in Suffolk or the east of England, and how we can change the dial with regards to the local supply chain to get it fit and ready for opportunities such as Sizewell or other large-scale projects that are happening in the region. Next slide, please. The commitment has been made, so many of you will be aware, this £4.4 billion commitment through the supply chain on the construction phase of Sizewell C. That is in essence our target. That is what we want to make sure we don't only achieve, but we exceed. But importantly, that we do it in the right way so that we don't have, or we mitigate against the opportunity for boom and bust, and for businesses to grow off the back of Sizewell, but then to feel the pain afterwards. Certainly as Chambers of Commerce in the East, we want to ensure we have a sustainable legacy of businesses. But equally working closely with our colleagues in the North and with Wales to ensure that that regional benefit and that collaboration between those regions is felt throughout the entire project. Next slide, please. So this is the region we represent. Yes, we are Suffolk Chamber of Commerce, but we are representing all 6 counties of the East. For us, it doesn't matter where you are. You could be in the west of Bedfordshire, actually where I am next week talking about the Sizewell project, or you could be in Lowestoft, the most easterly point in the UK. We're there to try and help and support and guide you through this project. Next slide, please. Oh, other way. Next one, please, Cameron. Excellent. So we have our key priorities as well. Firstly, we have to focus on that local. So as mentioned, it's about getting local businesses working on this project, but ensuring that those local businesses that are working on this project are also using a local supply chain themselves, that they are using local people and engaging in the right parts of society, but also very, very importantly, that we're able to utilise our work to benefit other projects and other businesses in the region. And including working together. You know, collaboration over competition is a key part of how Sizewell is going to be delivered. Because of the scale of this project, we have a lot of very good businesses in the East. We don't always have the scale. So actually working together and functioning as a unit is going to be the way we ensure the best long-term success from the construction of Sizewell C. Next slide, please. What we then also have to ensure is that there is that legacy that I spoke of earlier. We don't just want everyone to earn a few quid and then in 12 years' time or so, when Sizewell is finished being built, that actually it's all gone and there's nothing to replace it. So it's looking across all the different projects, but ensuring that that sustainable and proportionate growth is there so that businesses are growing off the back of Sizewell, but in a way that they are not reliant on Sizewell. And as I mentioned, it's making sure that we're not just able to have businesses fit to be able to do the job, but actually that they're fit in all ways. You know, does our workforce represent the communities in which we live and work? Do we have businesses that are fit to look after our people and our businesses themselves, to really be able to be that legacy that we want to see from the likes of Sizewell? Next slide, please. And the final thing, as mentioned, is Sizewell is critical for the UK government's net zero agenda. So actually, how do we help that? And then how can we as businesses in the region actually do our little bit to ensure that we are increasing our focus on environmental, monitoring our carbon, reducing waste, really looking at the most lean approaches to manufacturing. So very much a lot of our support is also going to be helping businesses decarbonise, to ultimately with the aim of helping the UK decarbonise. Next slide, please. So how do we do that? Well, many of you have seen these slides. We do everything we possibly can to help you as a business. It is about making the introductions and have you talking to the right people, importantly, at the right time. And that is through forward looks and engagement events and all these types of things that we do. But it's also about helping you get to the standards that are required. And this is where the business support program and the soon to be launched relationship we will have with the Supply Chain Sustainability School really come into their own, of being able to say to a business, this is what you need to do. Here's your support. Here's your funding. Off you go. Because it's all good and well giving you opportunity, but you also have to be ready for that opportunity. So we are there, that team of 7, dedicated to supporting the local and regional businesses, as well as the tier ones and the project itself, to really unlock that potential that we have in the east of England. Next slide, please. So we have our portal. Many of you will be aware, sizewellcsupplychain.co.uk. It is so important that those businesses who have not yet registered get registered, but also those who have registered on the portal, that you keep revisiting, keep updating, keep answering the questions that we put on there. The more information that you can give us, then the more we can ensure that events like this and some of our workshop events that are coming up, we've got one in May, for example, in Ipswich, that actually we're tailoring this around the needs of the supply chain. So the more of the information that you answer on our portal, the more we can then make sure that that support we are offering is exactly what is needed for your business at the right time. Next slide, please. And then, of course, there's also the opportunity portal. So that is Compete For currently, which is where all competitively tendered opportunities on Sizewell will be hosted. So we will continue to do the promotion of all those opportunities to really help you both unlock where that opportunity is going to be for you to bid. But also, for most local and regional businesses, it's about that tier 2 and tier 3 opportunity. So who do you need to be speaking to and when? So don't forget, on the Compete For page is also the forward look and the contract award data, so you can really keep up to speed with everything that's happening on this project. Next slide, please. A big aspect also of what we've been doing, and I sort of hark back to the event we did in November, is really helping business now start to understand the landscape. A project like Sizewell will have something in the region of 250 tier 1 companies. So in the main, talking to Sizewell is not the most important conversation businesses can have, and it's our role to help you as local and regional businesses understand who it is you need to be talking to, as I say, importantly when, and how that fits into the overall scope and scale of this project. But again, that's where our team, particularly many of you will see Karim and Cameron out and about, that is where we can support you in demystifying the way the supply chain will work at Sizewell because of its size and scale. Next slide, please. So the essential standards is the big thing we launched last year. As mentioned earlier about the portal, this is what's now been loaded onto the platform so that you can answer all the questions. And the aim fundamentally is to help you get through the pre-qualification questionnaire stage of Sizewell. So if we can understand across all of the essential standards what you're able to do, what you're not able to do, we can then best direct you as to how important those subjects could be for you, and where that support is. And we know that, yes, this is focused on Sizewell, but actually these are standards and requirements across an awful lot of public sector procurement. And also I look at the conversations we are having as a chamber with other large scale nationally significant projects that are happening in this region, but also across the UK, that actually these same standards are there across everything. So it is vitally important that we handhold you and support you in getting you ready for what good looks like on Sizewell, because that will benefit you on other projects as well, and hopefully ultimately help you grow and win more work and become more profitable. Next slide, please. And of course, that procurement journey that Sizewell goes through, it can be quite an elongated process for a lot of businesses, won't be used to it, of the multiple stages of this, and even after contract award, the mobilisation stage that then takes place after that. So again, it's helping you understand where you fit into these, and the feedback that we are now starting to get at each stage to help you improve as a business if you're not successful. But certainly for any businesses that are bidding for work, we are then there to help support and guide as much as we can through that process at the various stages as well. Next slide, please. And final couple from us, or final one from me, sorry, I should say, is just a reminder that supporting the supply chain slide that I showed earlier, it's all about what you need. So this is what we are currently delivering. If I show this slide in a year's time, this may well be different. If there are things that you need as local and regional businesses that you would like us as a chamber to support you with, if there are successes that you are desperate for us to celebrate because you're working on site, please don't hesitate. Just reach out to anyone in the team. And if we can help you and give you that info you need, we 100% will. But we have to hear from you. So please, good, bad, indifferent, your feedback is critical to us. And that should be my last slide. So at this point, next slide, I should hand over, I believe, to Ed. So Ed, over to you.
Hi, good morning, and thanks for joining us. I'm going to cover the topic of psychological safety and try and demonstrate its value to you. I'm going to talk about what it is, how to create it, why it's important, particularly in the nuclear sector. And I'm going to go beyond psychological safety and also look at the end towards some of the other things that can add value to teams to make them high performing. So, next slide, please, Cameron. Just to introduce myself, I've been around a lot of different industries, a lot of different roles, but the thing that has run through my career has been leading teams. And I was trained initially in the Royal Air Force, did 11 years, including doing some flying training. Although I'm an engineer, it was thought that by understanding how to fly, we would be able to communicate, lodging itself in my early thinking about how to lead and run teams. I'm a big fan, but I'm also a pragmatist, and I'll cover some of the theory of it, but actually go beyond some of that and talk about personal experiences of what's gone right and what's gone wrong in trying to do this in different contexts. So next one, please. So what's it all about? Well, it's about encouraging individuals within a team to be themselves, essentially, to feel free to offer their thoughts, ideas, and opinions without fear, um, supporting each other in a team, being able to challenge each other safely in a team and not feel that there's a risk to yourself in doing so. Um, Amy Edmondson is the person from Harvard Business School who's in recent years kind of done most of the running on this, and she's known for coining the term psychological safety. But actually, the ideas of this came out as a result of the Second World War. A lot of men, particularly, had experienced military culture in a sort of compliance way where command and control was used to ensure that people did what they were told and not question it by some of the military forces. And starting to learn that there were some limitations to some of that at times. Maybe the best outcomes weren't delivered as a result of that compliance culture. The other sort of factor resulting from the war was a lot of women entered the workplace, previously male-dominated environments, and that changed some of the culture and the thinking. They stayed in the workforce after the war, and the 1950s, therefore, in particular, the ideas about humanistic psychology came out more and more, and that kind of led to some of the ideas that we talk about today. So it's really quite an old concept, but interestingly, and we'll see how you guys think about it in a minute, but interestingly, it's not, even though it's widely demonstrated as a good thing. It's not in place in many organisations and many teams, and there's some interesting factors around that. As I said, I'm not a purist, so I'm going to mix a few ideas away from not just what Amy Edmondson says, but some of the earlier thinking as well. So next, please. Why do we do it? Why does it matter? Well, look, everyone spends probably more time at work than they do anywhere else. And if you're at work and only doing a 9 till 5, and not putting any of your discretionary time and effort into making the workplace a good place to be, um, we're not kind of getting the best out of people. Um, if we have strong, effective, psychologically safe teams, the quality of thinking is better. It improves the well-being of people. It reduces absenteeism. It develops people faster, and you get the benefits of the diversity of the team. So, the team really being more than the sum of its parts. Um, Interestingly, also, it plays a key role in safety, and that's why it's been particularly relevant in sectors like nuclear. Next one, please. So I'm gonna. It's 40 years in a few days from the Chernobyl disaster. And there have been quite a few programs on TV around it in the last week or so, and probably more to come. Interestingly, it's a huge demonstration of the pitfall of a lack of psychological safety in the team. So I'll tell you the story from that perspective, from that human perspective. So late on the night of the 26th of April 1986, the control room in reactor 4 at Chernobyl was quiet, tired, and tense. They'd been planning through the day a key safety test that the chief engineer wanted to try, but they'd had to delay it for hours because they needed to keep generating electricity to the grid, which meant that the experienced day shift team who'd planned the whole thing had handed over to the night shift, who were capable, less senior, but they're also less familiar with the experiment. Running the test was the chief engineer, Anatoly Dyatlov. He was senior, he was a bully, he was feared, he was known for his temper. Although he wasn't meant to be running the reactor, everybody knew that he was in charge. When he spoke, he expected people to obey. Challenging him wasn't just uncomfortable, it could be career-ending, and there'd been plenty of examples of where that had happened to people. At the console, the control console, was young Leonid, a 25-year-old control engineer. As the reactor power dropped below the safe limits, he hesitated. He said quietly to his colleague that procedures warned against continuing in that state. The chief engineer snapped back, "Do it anyway." The shift supervisor stood between them. On paper, he was responsible for the reactor. In practice, he knew he didn't have the authority to stop the test. He could feel things slipping outside the margins of safety, systems being disabled, alarms ignored, but stopping the experiment would mean openly defying a man much, much higher up in the hierarchy. So, the junior engineer followed the orders. Control rods were withdrawn further and further, well beyond what was allowed. The reactor became unstable, but the room stayed silent. Everyone could see what was happening. They all felt uneasy, but in that culture, stopping the test without permission wouldn't just be brave, it would be career-ending. When the final button was pressed, everything unraveled in seconds. Power surged and the reactor exploded, with the consequences that we all know about. But even with the building destroyed and radiation pouring out, the same patterns held. The operators insisted the core was intact because acknowledging the truth meant accepting blame and pointing a finger that could destroy them. The fear that had kept them silent before the explosion kept them silent after it, and to this day. Chernobyl is often described as a technical failure, but the deeper story is human. The youngest person in the room saw the danger and had the least power to act. The person with formal responsibility lacked the safety, the psychological safety, to challenge upward. And the most senior voice in the room created an atmosphere where obedience mattered more than doubt. So long before the reactor failed, psychological safety had already been switched off. The result of Chernobyl was that psychological safety became a really big thing in the industry. Plants are now expected to promote open discussions, collective responsibility, and a questioning attitude. It's a good thing, and that's why it particularly matters. Next one, please. So, what might it look like? There are a few things on this slide. We've talked about the sort of hierarchical problem. So, you know, I must just follow the rules. I'm worried about what might happen on the bottom left there. It might look like I can see better ways of doing things, but people will tell me we've tried that, you know, it doesn't work around here, or I'll look stupid by saying it. I might see something I don't understand, but I'm worried about asking the question because I might look stupid and lose face. there are a lot of people in the workplace feel their manager doesn't understand them, doesn't want to listen to them, and that has quite a big impact on them personally. And in many cultures, it's really hard to admit mistakes because there might be an implication. And so that's really what lack of psychological safety might look like. Next one, please. So I would like to ask you to feel psychologically safe enough to undertake this poll. Think about your own team. How would you score its psychological safety? What we're going to do here, we're not going to look at individual results. We're going to look at the collective and see where, just by way of an example, but where everyone stands and what the overall positioning is. But thinking about it for yourself and your own team, perhaps it'll highlight areas that you need to work on with your team. So can we turn the poll on? Or do I need to do that?
Give me 2 seconds. It should now be coming up, hopefully.
Yeah, okay.
So if everyone, you've got 7 questions on there, everyone. So if everyone just answers the questions, won't know who's answered which, etc., but just give us a good little summary at the end.
Actually, I think we can hear your fan again.
Oh, sorry. I'll go mute again. Sorry.
Okay. Doesn't look like everyone wants to play. We've had 18 responses so far. Maybe some people are still completing. I'll just give you a moment or two to finish off if you're still trying to do so. And then let's have a quick run through. Oh, cool. Can we view the results now?
Cameron, sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Can you go back onto your slides again, please, mate? Thank you.
Can we view the results of the poll?
They should be in 2 seconds. Just now looking. No, it's not letting me now. Oh, there we go. View results.
There we go. Great. Thank you. So first one, it looks like for most teams represented here, it's okay to admit mistakes. That's really a positive thing to see. Let's have a look at the next one. And bring up problems and tough issues. That's really good. Does anybody feel able to comment either in the chat or let's have a look at the next one. Yeah, rejection of difference. This is an interesting one because people, this is often a problem. This is what I would suggest is diversity without inclusion, and certainly something I've done in my own team, I have deliberately recruited a diverse team. And the reason I've done that is because I have experienced the value of having diversity in a team. And I mean diversity in all its aspects. My team has very, very experienced older people alongside very junior, less experienced people. We've got people from all different cultures. We have people who are neurodiverse. One thing that we value as a team, really value as a team, is that diversity actually makes the team stronger. We come up with better outcomes as a result of the fact that we have that diversity and we have different styles and views and opinions, and we share them and we come up with the best results. But not everyone feels comfortable with that, and that's something to work on. The more you see it, the more you experience it, the stronger that one becomes. Next one. Safe to take a risk. Yeah. Okay. This is often a problem, and I'll talk a little later about some of the challenges here. In teams where it is not okay to take risk or take managed risk, the problem is that people don't learn. You need to give people room to make mistakes, to take risks, and value that in order to get the best out of a team. If people can't take risk, you don't learn. Often decisions get floated up the line management chain rather than people feeling able and empowered to do their own thing. So risk taking is quite an important one to get right. Next one, please. That's quite unusual. Strong teams are very supportive of each other. Some teams prefer, and some managers prefer to instill a sense of competition. And competition, healthy competition, can be really useful. But where competition turns into people not helping and supporting each other, it becomes very difficult to recognize, I can't do this, I need some help, can you help? And people giving that help willingly and genuinely, knowing that it's for the greater good. Next one, please. Yeah, okay. So again, a bit less certain here around perhaps this is particular individuals in a team who can be more difficult to work with rather than an overall team thing. But undermining each other in a team doesn't help the team. It's counterproductive to the team. And you have to find ways to call people out when they do that, and help them recognize that their behavior is not productive and helpful. Next one. It's good. It's good that people feel that unique skills and talents are valued and utilized. We often see this one being reasonably well scored. It's rare to see it highly scored. To some degree, some people, when they look at this question, think about the reward and remuneration and recognition that they get for what they have done. And that's often the reason why they score lower than the actual intent of the manager of the team or the other colleagues in the team, who probably do value the skills and talents more highly than people sometimes think. Okay, thank you for participating in that. I hope you found that useful, and do feel free to try that with your team as part of a discussion where you can seek to examine the issue and try and improve the performance of the team.
Yeah, brilliant, Ed. So, Cameron, do you want us to share slides again? Brilliant. And I think just quickly, Ed, John, who's one of the things, put a very good point, and I think it links into some of the answers on those around that culture within a business, because he said he's in a workshop last night many similar questions asked under the heading of governance.
Mm.
And I think that's that culture. That's that complete buy-in. Your example with Chernobyl of, not being able to question. And I know certainly on size, well, nuclear sector as a whole, that ability to challenge and actually that encouragement to challenge is key, because otherwise you can't learn and innovate and change, can you? So I think there's very similar links to that.
Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah, thank you. Okay, next one, please. So there's a little graph here from Amy Edmondson again, where what she is suggesting is that we need to put teams into the learning zone where learning is the thing that is most important. So we've got the high psychological safety. That could be comfortable if we're not also pushing performance, encouraging people to take risks so that they move themselves from that comfort zone where everything's always done the same into the learning zone where you're continuously improving and getting better. If you don't have the psychological safety, then we're either in the anxiety zone where everyone's stressed and worried about what will happen, because you're being pushed for higher levels of performance and you can't do it, or the apathy zone where, frankly, the team just is stagnating and not really performing. So that's sort of part of the academic thinking around it, if you like. But let's try and put some of that into practice. Next one, please. So let's first understand the keepers. So we talked about negative consequences, the blame culture, getting a lower performance rating, limiting your career prospects, etc. Lack of confidence and trust within the team works on both a team level and an individual level. There are often people within a team who are underconfident in their ability. Maybe they are suffering imposter syndrome. Maybe they are looking at colleagues around them and thinking they don't really fit because everyone else is so much better than me. Sometimes it comes from lack of time, just pressure, putting time pressure on people, meaning they haven't got the opportunity to help others. We've talked about diversity without inclusion. I think the biggest risk around diversity and inclusion at the moment is the tokenism I see in a lot of organizations about, yeah, we do diversity and inclusion, and there's all the good training packages, but actually the reality is very different from what's put out in those training and learning packages. But the biggest thing that probably makes most impact is leadership behaviors and hierarchy. And I'm going to call out particularly micromanagement as as one of the things. Coming from a military culture, one of the things we learnt about very early on as officers was the importance of sharing the commander's intent with the team. So, what is the broad outcome that you're trying to achieve? But then not micromanaging, not spelling out the detailed processes by which we're going to get there, but giving the junior managers, giving the individuals the opportunity to use their experience and the fact that they're closest on the ground to what needs to happen to deliver that outcome in the best way that they see fit. That's a really important concept in management, and as a manager or a leader, being clear about what your intent is and making that very clear to everybody so they understand it, and then giving them the freedom and the opportunity to find the right way to get there can be the most significant thing you can do to improve performance of a team and to ensure that that team really is learning and developing in the best possible way. One thing we need to be really careful about is leaders dismissing ideas or shutting people down. I've been in many meetings where someone wants to share an idea and the person in charge or the person chairing the meeting shouts them down because perhaps they're worried about the time that's being taken, or perhaps they don't trust what that individual is going to say. They're worried about what they might say. It's really important to make space for people to say what they're thinking. It might be a genuinely stupid thing that they bring up, but the interesting thing about people bringing up stupid ideas is that it quite often encourages a good idea to be developed from realizing what is stupid. So actually, no no contribution is unhelpful, even if it is stupid. It is still helpful and therefore should still be listened to, if that makes sense. Um, if you are experiencing any of those things in your team, think about the underlying causes. Why are people being driven to create those blockers, and try and remove those blockers as much as you can. Next one, please. So, some things that are really important here: leadership, psychological leadership, psychologically safe leadership, role modeling the right behaviors, openly communicating information, having that compelling goal, the commander's intent, if you like, and the empowering people to get there, and setting teams up for success with the right skills, qualifications, experience, etc., to achieve what the objectives. If you don't have those elements in place, it's really hard to try and create a psychologically safe team. Next one, please. So let's go through a bit of a recipe. This is a recipe from my own team. I've adapted it very slightly to remove some of the things that are very specific to my industry and my company. But the first thing we try to do is promote open and honest conversation. We, as leaders, as team members, we're asked to actively listen to each person in the team, not just letting them speak, but really genuinely actively listening, and often summarizing back to them what we've heard from that to check understanding and make sure that's clear. Open-ended questions, treating things as we want to understand in the best possible way what is being talked about, and the issues and things that matter. A specific agenda for meetings is helpful, and making space in that agenda for feedback can be very, very useful. I quite often, and my colleagues spot me doing this now and call me out for doing it, but I quite often will use a highly creative or very different idea to challenge everybody else in the meeting to think differently. It can be a bit disruptive, it can be a bit annoying sometimes, but it will give others in the meeting the feel safe to do the same, and that's one way of getting more out of meetings and team events. Let's have a look at the next one. So leading by example, really important. Role modeling what's safe, genuinely living and encouraging the right behaviors. One of the strongest things I experienced was when one of my top bosses in a very large meeting, about 400 or 500 of us, he stood up and he was going to give a speech about the future strategy of the team and the way forward. He started by saying, "I made a mistake the other day. I cost our business tens of millions by making the wrong decision." And everyone was kind of looking at each other thinking, what on earth's he done? And he went on and he explained that he was pressed for time. He didn't have all the information at hand. He didn't make time to go and find the information. He didn't listen or ask the people who knew more about it. He made a spur of the moment, let's get on with it kind of decision. that cost a huge amount of money lost as a result. The fact that he shared that, the fact that he admitted he'd made a mistake and felt vulnerable, the fact that he recognized the things that he should have done better had a huge impact on the team. And his personal brand credential, if you like, went through the roof with that team on that day. And it encouraged others to be much more open about the mistakes they were making too. And as a result, the team learned a huge amount about what was really important to do and what really mattered in terms of decision making. Another one in that list there that's often overlooked is involving people in the decisions that matter to them, where they can add value. Quite often decisions are taken by senior people without recourse to the people who are actually affected by it. And yet hearing their perspective could change the decision that needs to be made, and the choices of the options. Okay, next one, please. So defining team norms to build trust and respect. There's something here. One of the things a lot of teams do is create a team charter or create a set of values to live by. It can just be a bit of a tokenism type thing, unless it's really lived, unless it's called out, unless it's revisited. We have a process now where we start every weekly team meeting with reference to one of the values on our team charter and someone explaining how they have seen that lived out, or sometimes where they have seen that compromised by actions. And that forces everybody to rethink on a regular basis about what's important to the team. How do we want to live as a team and function as a team? I think the making time to help each other is made so much easier these days with tools like Teams, because you can very, very quickly share with the team, I need some help with an Excel spreadsheet. I don't understand how the macros work. Can anyone help? And within 5 minutes, you might have 3 or 4 offers from someone else in the team who knows how to do that, who can fix things. It can be a very, very quick way to save time and improve productivity. And certainly as a team, I mean, my team's chat across the team, probably 20, 30 times a day, there will be colleagues asking others for help, and inevitably lots of people being helpful back, because it really does help everybody. What goes around comes around. So giving someone help today might increase your chances of getting help when you need it. So that one's really strong and very easily done. I think the other thing here that's important to remember is when new people join a team, you need to make it okay for them quickly to recognize that the team culture is genuinely like that, and it is okay to ask for help. Experienced somebody, a new joiner to the team, who didn't realize that we genuinely lived in that way, and spent 2 days trying to do something by themselves and got horribly frustrated. And it was only when their colleague reached in and asked, "Are you okay?" that she admitted she didn't know what she was doing and needed help and support. It's harder when you've got lots of people working from home. It's harder to reach in and check that people are okay. And so we have built a virtual coffee morning, which happens at various times on various different days. So there's never a sort of set time for it, where people can literally just drop in have a chat with each other. People can check in with each other and make sure things are okay. But also an opportunity where you can, if you like, meet people virtually over the water cooler and share problems and look for help. Next one, please. Learning opportunities. One of the early things from my flying training was the idea that there was a box in the T-bar and some post-it notes by the box, and if you had done something stupid or if you had learnt a lesson in while you were flying that you thought other people could benefit from, you could write it on a post-it note, put it anonymously in the box, and every morning at the team brief, the box would be opened and those things would be shared for the benefit of everybody. Really important discipline to be in. There are in various industry schemes in the infrastructure world in particular. I'm not sure if there's one in nuclear. I'm not really a nuclear person, but there are various schemes where that sort of speaking up and talking about near misses or talking about mistakes and the benefit of the anonymity there, encouraging people to be really genuinely open and honest. In my projects, we always run a monthly retrospective to talk about what's gone well, what hasn't gone well, how can we do better. Embracing, that's a way of embracing that continuous improvement, continuous learning, and it helps everybody get better. Next one, please. Collaboration and teamwork. A lot of people do this by saying, let's have team events or whatever. We've already talked about teams and doing that. My team, people are encouraged to find opportunities to, everyone in my team is expected to contribute one thing towards the team. And we're completely open to what those things might be, but it's been really interesting to see the kind of things people come up with. One of my colleagues, for example, decided to set up a yoga session once a week that they go and do in a local park. Another group are doing learning to sew together, all sorts of things, but and not everything appeals to everybody and not everyone has to take part, but all of those little groups doing little things together really helps the team. It helps common understanding of each other's issues and problems and personal lives as well as the work stuff, and it means everyone in the team really gets to know each other, and actually it has a real impact on people's quality of life. Next one, please. Okay, this is the last in the 6-stage recipe, but celebrating the wins. It's important to reflect on the achievements you've made as a team. You can do that in your team meetings. You can do that through financial rewards or bonuses or whatever. You can give prizes out at team events and things. One of the most valuable, I think, for many people is when you can enter a national competition and win something that really makes the team feel and those individuals within it feel really special. So winning awards is a really good thing to try and do. It can also have a negative effect because if everyone knows you've submitted the team for an award and they don't get it, people can be miserable. So it's often something best done on the quiet. But actually, it's surprising how straightforward it can be to find suitable national competitions and put the entry together to be able to do that. So that's something that's proved really valuable in the past. Okay, so that's the 6-stage recipe. Next one, please. I wanted to share here some of the things we found on various team charters around this. I think we've kind of been through a lot of that. One of the things I guess I wanted to call out here is there are ways of building teams that encourage teams to think of the rest of the world as it's them and us. Millwall Football Club are classic at this. One of their songs is "Everybody Hates Us," and they're using that kind of adversity, if you like, to pull their team closer together. The problem with that is it also has limitations. It will help pull the team together, but it does mean that when it comes to working in a work context with that team, others can feel that team's very cliquey, and actually the overall performance impact is less than it could be if teams were more open to others and perhaps a bit less cliquey and a bit less it's us against everybody else. So we talk sometimes about it's us against the market, not against each other. It's not the procurement team against finance, or it's them again. We all try and work together to do the right thing for each other. Next one, please. Okay, so that was psychological safety. I'm just going to touch on a couple of other things. We did a huge survey across a lot of defence major programs, and we found that psychological safety was significantly present in many teams, and it was having a significant impact. I should have said at the beginning that there are a lot of academic studies that show psychological safety can improve team performance by 10, 20, 30%. I'm always a bit wary of those because you don't know what the starting point was that they're measuring from, but it definitely has a significant impact on team performance and team outcomes. But there are other things that also matter. Our study, our work, and it's borne out by other studies, show that clarity of direction has the second strongest effect on psychological safety and performance. But individuals often feel least comfortable about that risk taking that we talked about earlier when we looked at the survey. And that's the area most teams need most work on, is that genuine empowerment and risk taking and making it okay, treating it as a learning opportunity. Interesting, if you're working across organisation boundaries, it does impact on the psychological safety of a team. If you've got a really difficult stakeholder or a difficult other team that you have to work with, you have to find ways of bringing them into the same context that you are working within, or learn to accept that they are never going to do that, and you just have to maintain safety within your team by making sure that the managers are lined up. As a senior leader, it can be very helpful to go and talk to the other organization, the other function or whatever that's a problem, and try and work through how to address what the team is experiencing and why it doesn't feel safe working with that team. And that can lead to big improvements. Strategic environment also has a big impact. In the military context, if you're fighting a war and you're on operation, people feel a lot safer in the idea of taking quick decisions, taking risks, because the operational demand means that has to happen. Interestingly, the slowest decisions get taken in peacetime, and are most decisions that might in wartime or might take hours or days can take months in peacetime because that imperative isn't there. Next one, please. Google did a big project in 2012, looked at their teams to try and figure out what makes a team effective. Psychological safety came out as the number one thing that was absolutely the top thing. But they also found some other things that were important. So dependability, that team members can genuinely depend on each other to do high quality work on time. So this is about everyone in the team um, pulling their weight, not just relying on the team to do the work for them. Structure and clarity, having clear roles, having clear goals and plans, that commander's intent, also really important. Interestingly, meaningful work is also important. A number of organizations have started talking about purpose. What is the purpose that gets you out of bed in the morning? What is the purpose that we have as a team? Are we there to just make money? No. Are we there to change the world? Yes, but in what ways? Thinking about purpose and what drives people really does make an impact. So overall, that's psychological safety. That's some of the things you can put on top of it. Hope that's been useful. I'm happy to take any questions.
Perfect. Thank you as always, Ed. And I think it's key. I think, look, we talk about our teams, and particularly if you think of an easy everyday, we all do like learning styles of our people, and trying to adapt the way we talk to them. And just as a manager myself, I deal with different members of the chamber team in different ways because everyone's individual. But I think it is understanding, as I think the Google slide at the moment, that's psychological, but you see their clarity of work, meaning of work, impact. Nowadays people want to understand a lot more, don't they? And I think that's so important. And I'm sure many of you would have seen, think psychological safety. Okay, how does that impact something like a Sizewell? Well, massively. But it impacts everyone on a day-to-day basis. And I go back to our slides earlier. It's about getting Sizewell built for our work, but it's actually boosting and bolstering all of those small businesses that we're all going to play very, very small little parts on this massive project, that actually we all get a bit better at what we do and we all have more successful businesses. So John made obviously a couple of interesting kind of points following on his point he put in the question earlier, and he did kind of ask, is there a key difference from what you see, Ed, between kind of, he's described it as anonymous kind of like post-it note lessons learned and actual formal whistleblowing?
Yeah, I think there's a difference. I mean, I think whistleblowing is about calling out something that's gone wrong, calling out someone who's not acted in the right way, and getting senior attention focused on it to hold them to account, perhaps. Whereas I think the anonymous reporting of near misses and things is a much more personal thing. It's I forgot to take the brake off, and I realised I put the full engines on, and I toasted the brakes, and I shouldn't have done. Is a learning that can be shared with others. Others can kind of think, oh yeah, I must remember to do that, so I don't end up doing that myself. So I think it's two slightly different contexts. Yeah.
Okay, and I think John's other point, which is well made, and I think I know you kind of touched on it, and it's something I've mentioned before in one of our previous webinars that we did around this subject, is that you can have a diverse workforce, but is the way your business operates diverse? There's two different things, and I think that's to your point, Ed, of yes, you can bring in a diverse workforce, but if you then don't listen to that diversity, your business is not diverse. It might have, if you take the most obvious low-hanging fruit of diversity, you may have an equal spread of females and males. You may have different levels of sexualities or religions or races. But actually, if you're still running your business in exactly the same way with exactly the same ideas, and not listening to this diverse range of people that you've now purposely brought into your business, then you're not diverse at all. So I think it's so important that it is quite common now that the tokenism is a very easy kind of label to put on things, but actually, truly diverse workforce are the ones that adapt and improve and innovate in often the best ways. So, but it's important that you understand the impact you as a leader can have on your business when it comes to diversity, but also those people within your business can have to you as a leader.
Yeah, it's interesting in that context. There's a lot of talk in the press at the moment about developed vetting, and how that impacts on security. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about developed vetting. The process of developed vetting is very intensive. You sit with someone for several hours and reveal everything about your life, and they go and talk to other people and check and verify that you're telling the truth and you're not hiding anything. What that used to mean to a lot of people is that they needed to be perfect. They wouldn't do developed vetting if they were gay, for example, because they'd have to reveal that secret, and that meant that they weren't perfect and therefore they weren't secure. Absolutely not true. And the security service in particular made a very, very big play of, it doesn't matter what you tell us. It really doesn't matter. What we need you to be is honest. If you're being honest to yourself, and you can be yourself in our environment. And for the security service, it is very, very important that they have a diverse workforce, because otherwise they are not effective as a security service. If everyone thinks the same way, they're stumped. So interesting in the context of what's happening with Mandelson, is a recognition. It's not, whoever did Mandelson's vetting, they would not have been looking for, he's got a problem here or he's got a problem there. They would have been looking for, how honest is he being with us? Is he genuinely sharing all of the things about his life that might create security issues or not? And it doesn't matter whether he's best friends with someone from China or whatever. It's that he's told us. That's the thing that matters. And then, in the context of the team, people going through that diversity, that having that people who've done things wrong or think differently, it's all helps the team.
Correct. Okay, so obviously, if there's any other questions, then obviously please do post them on the Q&A. If we just skip forward a couple of slides, thank you, Cameron. Because obviously people is such a critical thing. I mean, the regular feedback, obviously, we're actually getting as a chamber. Obviously, business is hard at the moment. Recruitment can be quite tough. Obviously, unemployment is creeping up a little. But actually, retention of staff, recruitment of new staff, all these things are so important. So these little things we can be doing to look after our teams or to enable recruitment of new people in a bigger and better way is so important. Like I say, especially when business is so tough at the moment, which it is. External factors in particular having a massive impact. So if there is any other questions, keep them coming. We'll do the last couple of slides though. So Cameron, if you want to skip on to the next one. Final one in this little mini series of the business support program webinars that Ed and the team at PA Consulting are very kindly supporting us on. Next one is actually next week, next Wednesday. So this time next week, we are doing one around effective contract controls. Becoming increasingly important. We are seeing more and more feedback from both the project and its main contractors, but also from local businesses, that actually, yes, we've got that success of winning a contract, fantastic, or working on site, but actually those challenges around mobilization, those challenges around managing that contract, and in particular being able to report on these things is imperative. On a project like Sizewell, there is a lot to happen post signature of contract. So actually understanding how to do all of this is critically important and will only become more and more important again through all the other projects that are happening and public sector procurement and so on. So that one's next week. It's available to book now. I think an email and a social post also went out this week, but please do get yourself registered on that one. And as we always say, if there are other subjects that you would like covered, then please do reach out, because we are now, as mentioned earlier, about to launch, or Sizewell alongside ourselves, about to launch the Supply Chain Sustainability School resources. More of that will come out from us in the next week or two as it launches and we share all the information. But there'll be plenty of resources both through our website but also the school's website that are available for you as businesses to either get hold of, webinars and in-person workshops as well. But the most important thing is to ensure that you're engaging with us. So if there are things, for either from your experience on Sizewell or from other projects where you'd like us to help, then please do let us know. Just going to double check if there has been any other questions. No other questions. Obviously, yeah, as mentioned earlier, the presentation will be shared with everyone that's registered for today. We will also ensure, like I say, that the recording of today, hopefully we'll edit out the couple of little errors, but that will be hosted on our website, in theory, probably by the end of this week, if not certainly the start of next week, so you can watch back over. And again, as we always say, don't forget, look at the business support program page on the website, because all of our previous webinars, including the one we did a couple of weeks ago with Ed, they're available. They're there to watch, they're there to re-watch, to understand some of these subject matters. And like I say, we will be looking at refreshing some of those throughout 2026 as well, and plus very soon linking into the schools suite of information as well. So there's plenty of support out there, but if in doubt, please do reach out. Doesn't seem to be any other questions. So with that, I will say thank you very much as always to everyone and look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you.